Welcome to the Jewish Link Pitch Meeting Podcast. I'm here with two very special women, okay, in our community, and they are Rivki Rosenthal and Aviva Breda from, this is a tough one, Teaneck Gown Gemach, Something Borrowed, or the Something Borrowed Teaneck Gown Gemach. And I want to wish you guys a mazel tov, first of all, for being here, but also about a month ago, I actually am involved in kicking them out of their borrowed house, okay, in Teaneck, where they've been existing for a while, and moved into a really, really, really nice office space on Cedar Lane in the heart of Teaneck. And so mazel tov on that new space.
Thank you.
Tell me about the new space, and then we'll get started about, you guys decide, tell me about the new space. Tell our readers, watchers about the new space and what it's about.
Okay. Well, we were looking. We had started off in the home of Bossy and Adam Lewis. Originally, when we first came up with the concept, they had a house that we were able to use.
How many years is it about just?
How long ago did we start?
It will be 2 years in October, right after the Chagim will be 2 years.
Only 2 years?
Only 2 years.
Oh, I thought you guys were a COVID story. No. Okay, no.
Definitely not a COVID story with everyone gathering together to try on gowns. But so we started out there, and it was a concept. Thank God. Becky and Avi Katz had approached me. We had gone on a mission together to Chicago to see their Chesed, what they do out there, which is really unbelievable. I've never seen something so amazing.
You went out. Sorry, you were taking our trip to Chicago.
Yeah. So through Ariyot, which is Daniel Rothner's. Arivot. Okay. He had called me and he invited me to go on this Chesed mission, and I was like, "Yeah, let's go see what they do."
By the way, I know that Bossy Lewis, you say Chesed mission to her, she runs, so that makes sense. So okay, but I didn't. Good. Okay.
So he invited me out. And I saw what was going on there, and it's unbelievable. We're talking about warehouses of Chesed, anything you can want under the sun. I remember during COVID, I was stressed out trying to get feeding tubes, whatever, for my mother, and you're there, and maybe we're not allowed to say it because I'm not sure what you're allowed to and not allowed to have legally in these things, but they had everything, and I came home and I was like, oh, so inspired. We have to do something here. We have such a large community, and unfortunately, people don't realize, or fortunately, there is a big need in our community for a lot of things. And with so many giving people, we really could do all these things. We just need somebody to stand up and be like, let's start this, and then put a post out. When I put a post out asking for people to come help with the Gown Gemach, and it was only then in concept, Aviva, who's a rock star and amazing, stepped right up, and a ton of other people to join us. And it's unbelievable because it's not something one person can do. Maybe if it was small, but you really need a lot of people.
Hold on a second. So you were in Chicago, you saw a lot of Chesed, but what made you decide gowns?
Okay. So Becky called me up at some point and said, Avi and I would love to help, back you guys. If there's something, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I want to start a warehouse of Chesed. I want to do what Chicago does, but that's obviously, a very big undertaking. Maybe one day that is my ultimate dream, to have a Chesed.
A warehouse of Chesed.
A warehouse of Chesed.
You heard it here first. A warehouse of Chesed.
Something that's important to know. The reason that Rivki was invited on this Chesed trip is because on her own, Rivki already has bris pillow gemach and a bris outfit gemach, and there's always
the costume gemach,
yes, and then also food. There's always food on Rivki's porch. Anybody who needs bagels or sushi or anything. So Rivki's already super involved in doing as much chesed as possible. So even the fact that she was willing to take on yet another endeavor and has dreams of doing so exponentially more is really, really
okay. So we got to get you. I didn't realize. Are you still able to do the other thing? The other gemachs?
Thank God, they're easy, quick gemachs. Purim, it's 2 Sundays of my life, organizing, and I do that with Sarah Savetsky in memory of her father. And then the bris pillow gemach, it was just easy. I went to Israel. We bought some bris pillows. We brought it home, some outfits, and that's it. People just text you, and you leave it on your porch. With the leftover food, it was going in the garbage. So why not? People could have the opportunity to enjoy it, and every dollar that somebody in the community saves, whether it's somebody who needs it financially or someone who is saving money, then they can donate that money for other things, to do other initiatives. But so that's how it started. So Becky approached me and I said, I don't know why I chose gowns, but I was wanting to do something in memory of my mother. She had passed.
Are you into fashion? Are you into couture or that kind of stuff?
Not at all. Okay. They call me the bagel lady. I said, I'll dress up like a bagel. No, it's not my thing, but we have people that have volunteered that are really fashionistas, I call them. More, I like to do the back end stuff. I like to organize and figure it out and get it running and started, and text the people when we need gowns back or when something happens. But I'm definitely not the fashion person. I mean, I can help you pick a dress, but it's not my expertise. But yeah, so we started I don't know what made me say, oh, I know why. Thank God I have a big family with a lot of nieces and nephews. And I was always running to Teaneck Gown Gemach or the 5 towns to for my nieces and nephews that you have to wear the color to our wedding, Aunt Rivki. So I was like, why am I shopping to the 5 towns? We are in such a big community here. I can't believe we don't have this. So I think that's kind of what's inspired me to say, let's do gowns.
Can I just say, I interrupt you? I love that because, first of all, I started the Jewish Link because that reason. I said, I actually started because of the 5 towns, because how come our community doesn't have our own publication? I like hearing that, and actually one of the things I find sometimes in our core readership is that we feel that we're a little behind other communities, like we're not as strong as Monsey Passaic on certain things or the 5 towns, and I just love it when people step up and say, hey, we got to create that here. Awesome.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
So that's how the gown started. I just said, let's do this. But again, I put out on a bunch of the different WhatsApp chats, which I'm sure everybody is part of. All these different community WhatsApp chats, who wants to get involved in doing this. And right away, Aviva wrote back and a bunch of other people wrote back, and we started a gown WhatsApp board. And from there, our dream was born.
Okay. So the first, what happened? So gowns started to flood into your garage.
So what happened actually first was that, a bunch of us answered the call on these WhatsApps, and we had a meeting. We all got together and we met, and we started brainstorming. How could we really make this work? Will it work? How are we going to make it work? What kind of policies do we need to enact, and all of those things? So the first thing we did was come up with the name. So what we thought was very important was that we didn't want, there can sometimes be a stigma surrounding the idea of a gemach. And we felt very strongly that we didn't want that. We wanted to make sure that everything that we offered to our community was of the highest standards, elegant, chic, and something that they would want to be seen wearing. So we didn't want the name to have that same stigma, because the hope is really to erase that stigma. There's no reason for it at all. So that's why we went with something borrowed. And then we wanted to make sure that people still knew what it was. So it's kind of like, in parentheses, Teaneck Gown Gemach. So that's why we felt so strongly about having something borrowed as like the main name, and the Teaneck Gown Gemach kind of as the underscore. So we met, there was probably 10 or 12 of us, I think, at that meeting. And we brainstormed for a while, and we all kind of took our own assignments to research other gemachs and how do you do it? How do you curate the collection and things like that? And pretty quickly after, Basi and Adam Lewis offered us space. And then after that meeting, Rivki, and I think it was just Rivki, actually put out a call to arms, like we're going to try to start this. We're looking for gowns of a very high quality. We really wanted to make sure that it was going to be really, really quality garments. And they started flooding in. And my house was one of the donation points, and I very quickly needed to get a rack, which luckily my neighbor used to run a store. So she had one for me. And within less than a week, we probably had 60 gowns at my house, 60 gowns at least at Deborah Oken's house, who was the other donation point.
Well, why are people giving these away? Because they're usually, I understand, like a simcha gown, because they're never going to wear these again, pretty much.
For the most part,
it's one time.
For the most part, when you make a simcha, first of all, you're very heavily photographed and you're pretty publicly seen. So most people don't want to rewear that gown. Most people put a lot of time and effort into those gowns and money. And it's such a bracha to have someone else benefit from it. And so we had people bringing us gowns from, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and then we would have to decide, is that something that we want to keep in our inventory? Honestly, in the beginning, we tried to keep as much as possible because we wanted to fill up the inventory. And thank God, very, very quickly we had.
Yeah.
If it's a gown that I'm only going to wear, I'm just asking this.
Yeah.
If it's only a gown I'm only going to wear one time, so it should be obvious to give it away, shouldn't it be?
So it's actually interesting. People have a lot of sentimental attachments to their gowns, and we find that it does often take time. Like there are some people who just need it to sit in their closet for a year and then say, okay, now I'm ready to give it up. And there are other people who like almost straight from the wedding will be like, here you go. I never want to see it again. Like I'm done with it. I don't need it sitting in my closet. So
it should have another life after.
Exactly. So that's really the biggest bracha, is to be able to, I think, for people to see their gowns. I get so much pleasure when I get to tell people, obviously without the name of the person who's borrowing it, but like, oh, your gown went out 4 times since you've donated it. Like that's it gives them like nachas, like it's like one of their kids almost, to know that someone else is enjoying it. And I think one of the really special things about, similar to what Rivki said about every dollar that is saved can go into a different initiative. And like, we kind of have this little catchphrase where we say, like at the Gemach, we charge the people who can pay so that we don't have to charge the people who can't. So, and that's one of the underlying principles also with when we were making all of these decisions about the Gemach, was to make sure to keep it very affordable. We are, it is a rental, but it is not like a business by any means. There's no one gets paid. There's, we work really hard to cover expenses. But the whole point of it is so that we can help whoever we can in the community. And we really value the people who can afford to pay, we would prefer that they pay $75 to borrow a magnificent gown and take the $2,500 or $3,000 they were going to spend on it and spread it in other places in the community.
Okay. Are you worried about if you're ever going to be so successful that no one's going to even like buy their own make their own dresses?
That would be the biggest bracha. We'll totally take that.
That would be a huge bracha.
Right. We really want people to understand that it's not just, I'm financially struggling, so I'm coming to the Gemach to borrow a gown. We have stunning gowns that cost, custom-made Miris, custom-made Zoes. These are high-end gowns. If you come, save yourself the $3,000, spend the $75 and then donate that money either back to the Gown Gemach, we'll take it to, make other purchases for things we need, or somewhere else in the community, because there's need everywhere in the community.
Yeah. By the way, I recognize, I'm not a fashionista, but I recognize the names because these are advertisers of mine. So I recognize some of the brands. Avi Katz, you mentioned to me just, it's not just the chesed you're doing, but actually there's a real, he likes the word return on investment. There's a real ROI. You can almost even quantify how much money you're saving in the community. Like every gown rented, but that's actually brilliant, by the way, to let people know, oh, your gown was taken 4 times this year, for even like maybe even to do it. I'll give you guys an idea to keep people connected, to the organization. Just sending them like kind of like a 6 months. Hey, you're just like hey, it's like almost like giving a donation, almost like a where your donation went kind of thing. It shouldn't be that hard, but it's doable. But my point is, it's just cool. Like you can actually even say, hey, we saved the community $500,000 or more, something
for sure.
Like that. I mean, I think we're up to row on my Excel spreadsheet because we have a form. We have to keep track of the gowns, make sure they come back. I think we're up to row 700. So that's as many gowns, thank God, has
in 2 years. And that includes wedding gowns as well as like, bridesmaid, mother of, wedding party. So I know for a wedding gown, I mean, that's a huge savings. We charge $250 to borrow a wedding gown, but compared to what the $6,000-$7,000 it could cost to get a custom-made gown or even a rental gown at some of these places, it's a humongous savings.
Yeah.
Do you feel like do you feel like you have to have? When you talk about curating them, like do you make sure you have plus sizes, super small sizes? Like I'm saying, like you have to really be I don't know how you handle that. So
it's really that really actually is a really big challenge for us because we really 98% of what we have is donations. So we can't predict what's going to come in, and certainly we can't not take and only take and say we only want this. So it's definitely a struggle. We did at one point take a small amount of money. We had gotten like a very, very good offer from someone who was closing their shop, and we bought just a select few gowns, which we try really hard not to buy because it just doesn't make as much financial sense.
It could, by the way, if that gown, let's say you buy for $1,000, $2,000, and you know that gown is going to be rented out 6 to 10 times, it would, in theory, make sense. In theory,
right.
But we have right now a lot of expenses that to just the everyday running, and thank God we have Avi and Becky backing us. for the months that we don't make the money to cover all of our expenses.
Since we've moved.
We've moved, right? So we have rent. And then people are like, well, what do you spend money on? I'm like, you don't even realize something as simple as the bags to cover the gowns, hangers,
the racks,
the vacuum that we just,
the dressing rooms,
right?
There's so many back end expenses that people don't realize. And then, we're also, a lot of us are working behind the scenes. There's so much behind the scenes work. There's keeping track of all the gowns, the dry cleaning. The way it works with us is that when you borrow a gown, so then you return the gown to the dry cleaner, you pay for the dry cleaning, and then we pick it up. And we have one volunteer, Rosenthal, who all she does, not all of them. One of the things she does is once a week she goes to the cleaners, and Allie has been detained in Israel for quite some time now. So just this week I picked up 29 gowns from the cleaners, just the amount of schlepping. And now, thank God, we're in this beautiful space on the second floor of a building. I had to recruit 2 of my children to come and do that with me. And not only that, once the gowns are cleaned, Allie meticulously inspects every single gown to make sure that it is in perfect, pristine condition before we put it back out. There's no rips, there's no damage, there's nothing. Then she checks it back into our system, and then only then can it go back on the rack. So there's just a ton of behind the scenes work that goes on. So it's the expenses of just managing all of that.
I'm going to throw a question at you. It sounds like you're not far from your first employee, your first hire.
Yeah. So, well, right now we have a great community and tons of volunteers. I think how many are we? 15 at least on our
volunteer. I love volunteers. We love volunteers, but you need people. Just saying, it's hard. I want you. This is like the big deal. When a volunteer-run nonprofit goes to their first hourly paid employee, it's a big change. And it sounds like I didn't realize how close you guys were to it, but it sounds like you're not far.
There are a couple of us who do a lot of the back end work, and it is a lot of work, and it does take up a lot of time. And I think the people who are doing it are very grateful to have the work and very happy to be doing it. It definitely does take up time. And then thank God we do have an amazing group of volunteers who help run the day-to-day, the open hours. We need between 3 and 4 people there at a regular open hours just to help people, to help them, try on the gowns. We're zipping gowns, we're making sure they fit, giving advice and things like that. And it's just, it is a really big operation to run. And I know I feel so blessed to have been asked to join, and to see where it is now it's unreal. Actually, when we were moving and organizing, and all of the volunteers really were like in the trenches. We were on the floor building things and hanging gowns, and we all had sore arms from the racks and everything. But one day I was sitting there and I said, I'm just going to count. And Baruch Hashem, we have over 1,500 gowns.
Whoa.
And it's really, not to discourage anyone from donating, please. We need more.
Definitely need more.
Any specific types of gowns you need more?
We'd love to have more maternity gowns.
Yes. We have only a very small selection.
We'd love to have, any gowns, but obviously we were looking in sizes more like 10s, 12s, 14s, 16s and beyond.
Yes,
we definitely could use
bigger sizes,
that collection.
For sure. We also are trying to solve another problem in the community, which is the infamous white graduation dress.
But that's a new problem, I heard.
It's not super new, but it's not old. So both 8th grade and high school girls, for some reason, have decided that they must wear a solid white graduation dress.
They're getting married.
Was that was not the case when we were younger, right?
No,
this is in the last 20 years.
I don't even know if we discussed what we wore.
Wait, so what did we wear at graduation? First, you have a cap and gown. No one sees what you're wearing.
That's why it's even more absurd, because they're covered in caps in the robes and the gowns.
I've heard about this phenomenon.
So this is a huge issue, and we've noticed it in the past. I've noticed it for sure in the past 2 or 3 years, but I'm more attuned to it in the past year or two, on all the WhatsApp chats and Facebook. Does anyone have? Where can we buy? Because you need something tznius, you need something school appropriate, age appropriate, and so
you can only wear one time.
Exactly, and there's however many girls in their grade, and God forbid it's the same dress. So we are trying to build up that as well, so that we can provide that as a service to people, so they don't have to kill themselves running around looking for the infamous white graduation dress. They can just come to the Gemach, borrow it actually, I think those dresses only go out for $50, not even $75.
That's so brilliant, by the way. Do people, you just let all the schools know? You let all the parents know?
We have a small selection.
We have a lot, but we're hoping that everyone donates them from this year, and then next graduation season we'll have enough to really push and say, come please, and shop
right
here.
Now I think we have about 20, but it is like finding a needle in the haystack, because it has to be the right one for your daughter, and that we would really love to help with that problem, because it's just it's like a silly thing that if everyone just donated their white dress, then by next year we'd have hundreds of white dresses.
We do
for
get
these
a
girls.
question a lot about.
So let's do that. Let's make a public
donate.
call
Yes,
for
please.
donating your white gown. Yes,
graduation
you may want to
dress.
save for your sister, but she's probably not going to wear it in 2-3 years. Okay,
She won't.
That's so
I
funny.
can tell you.
You mentioned about engagement also. Like that's also a new thing.
Yes, to wear white for engagement. But that's a different type of white dress. That's like a white gown. These are like much more casual, almost more like Shabbos dresses. For the engagement parties, it's more of like a white special gown, which we take too, and we do have a nice selection of. Some of them are cream or golds, but we do have that. I don't
think people realize what we are doing just in the gown gemach, because when you hear gown gemach, you think, okay, maybe the mother of the bride, the sister of the bride, bridesmaids, and the bride themselves. But we also have cocktail dresses. So when people get engaged and they want to wear something fancy to their engagement party, we have, I think, over 3 racks of cocktail dresses, even for the mother to wear to the afraf, any of that kind of stuff. We have the bat mitzvah age, and we're starting now with the younger age as well. So, if you're going for, I would say from babies up till bat mitzvah, well, those gowns. So if anybody, that is a collection we're looking to grow as well. And we just started with the boys, not suits. We're not going to do suits because that's a bit overwhelming, but we're going to look for like the tuxedos for the young baby ages that they wear.
Yeah. And also you don't want men coming anyway.
Exactly.
Right. So,
it's a little bit of a challenge when men do come.
Even young boys, the women probably don't want that.
We've had once or twice, but we asked them to wait outside, and everyone's respectful.
Yeah. But we definitely do want to try to grow the collection of like little boys, probably up until like 5 or 6 years old, when they're wearing like those velvet tuxedos, or there's knit outfits that again are never getting worn again. And why not save the money if you have them, donate them, and then borrow them from us, for a very small fee that goes back into the gemach and helps us get even more.
I love it. Promise me that when you do this for the kids, make sure you're getting like those really matched, the match things, like the whole family's like matched. That's so really cool. The odds of another family matching precisely the next family, ages and size wise, seems to be really low, but it's cool.
We do have a nice selection of matching gowns, but again, it's like someone had a yellow wedding, so we have
4 yellow dresses.
Match. So it has to be that you want yellow and you're in the right sizing. So it's definitely a challenge, but the more that we have, the more we can help people. And it's the same with little baby girls. We have beautiful little baby gowns, and those go out for only $25. So it's just a huge savings when if we happen to have the right thing, it's just at least check. Right. That's my plea.
Awesome.
And at least check first.
Yeah. And while we we want Bergen County, Teaneck, Bergenfield, Inglewood, New Milford, that was the goal. We have people coming from all over. It's always shocking to me when people fill out the form and I see the zip code. I'm like, wow, I can't believe they came from an hour and a half away,
Look, and they're also skipping over potentially gemachs maybe in their area.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. I'm going to tell you something. I actually think it's because of the marketing. I think the word something borrowed is cool. It just sounds cool. I hope it. I'm just saying. I hope it maybe differentiates you guys a little bit from maybe other gemachs. I'm not sure.
Something else that really does differentiate us is that we stock gowns that are short sleeve and are maybe not as high necked as some of the other gemachs. And there is a market. People are looking for that. And that's something that really does differentiate us from a lot of the closer gemachs, let's say, in this area. So that is something that we're very happy to be able to offer as well.
Is there like a gemach that's like you look up to? Is the Muncie gemach like 5,000 gowns? Is there a peer or a comp or anything?
I don't think so.
Is there like Lakewood Gown Gemach that's like operates like a Walmart or something like that?
No, so it's interesting. We actually found after doing research on a lot of the other gemachs on like how do we do this? I think we've actually been super successful in implementing a really, really smooth system. There are some gemachs who are still a notebook and paper where they just write it down, and it's one woman in her basement, which runs beautifully because she does everything and it's all on her time. And we're trying to make it we try to be as available as possible, offer as many hours as we can. And we try to streamline the system so that there aren't any of those mistakes or, any complications when
we actually have, I think it's Tuesday, right? We have a gemach, women, I don't know where they're from. They contacted Aviva, but they're going to come see our gemach because they're going to start a gemach in their community. So they kind of want to see how it runs, which is what we did in the beginning.
That's so cool. So people
we're very excited. And we actually we had a group of girls who were here on sort of like a Chesed mission from Eula in LA. Their teachers brought them. And actually it was right before we moved, and I begged them to wait, but they couldn't, obviously, because of the trip. So they did come to see us when we were still in the Bayit. And it was just great to be able to share with the girls. And actually LA is a very interesting community. They don't really know from Gemachs, and like the girls really didn't know what we were talking about.
They're a little weaker. It's a different community. But by the way, they actually have, there's a place in LA, if you ever make it out there,
I go there all the time.
There is a warehouse of like a food, like a supermarket, but I don't think it operates the whole year round. But basically, like it's a supermarket where people come. I'll get you more information, but I'm just saying like, your vision of a warehouse, not just gowns. By the way, the gown and the warehouse don't work together. You know that, right?
It's a different vibe.
It's a different vibe.
Okay, just letting you know it's not going to work together.
We'll stay on TV with the gowns, and we'll have the warehouse.
Correct. Yeah.
So it was great. We got to really tell the girls, teach them kind of about what we're doing, and it's just, I think when it comes to like gowns, for me at least, like I've always had a dream of working in Kleinfeld's, and this has really fulfilled that for me, because I get to do that. I get to be surrounded by these beautiful gowns, and there's nothing like, whether it's a bride or a bridesmaid or a mother of the bride, when they find a gown that they feel good in,
they made their simple.
I mean, it changes everything. And it's just, for me, that's the highlight for sure.
The open hours, I will say, it's a lot of work, and people do a lot of work behind the scenes, and I'm just starting to do the open hours now, thank God. It's so fun. It really is. You help people, try this on. I think this would look good on you. And they put it on and their face lights up. And, you have little kids who try on gowns and they're twirling. Their mommy, look, they feel like a princess. You feel so good that you were able to help them, give back, and make them happy and feel good about themselves, that it really makes everything worth it, And
it's by appointment, right? You have to do it like hour.
No, we have open hours.
We have open walk-in hours 4 times during the week. Mm-hmm. We try to accommodate, and then we offer private appointments or appointment times 1 day a week. Right. So, and that's all done through the open hours. You don't need to make any appointment or even let us know you're coming. It's just you buzz and
you come up
there, and you come on up.
Okay, I need to hear a good Teaneck Gown Gemach story. Like, I want to hear. Are there any favorite stories that you have about operating, running the Gemach?
So I have 2 that I could think of. One was a girl who was newly engaged, and her parents live in Israel, and her mom was in for a very short amount of time, and they had booked a whole day of appointments to go look at gowns, and her mom reached out to me and asked, it was a Motzei Shabbos, any chance we could just swing by? And within 15 minutes, she had her gown, and she was so happy and so excited. And there was never an intention to go specifically to a gemach. They had appointments in showrooms with designers and everything, but it was such a beautiful, magnificent gown. It fit her perfectly. And it was perfect. And then forget about the money they saved. Just like the stress, the anxiety, the worry, knowing that her mom was on this tight crunch, and then the second one actually just happened only 2 weeks ago. I wasn't there actually, but a woman reached out and said she was flying in from Israel. She was landing Friday morning. We are not open on Fridays. She had a wedding on Sunday. And this was actually the night after the first missiles started flying. Mm-hmm. So we didn't know if she was going to make it in. One of our amazing volunteers, Alana's actor, agreed to take the appointment and met her. And within also pretty quickly found her a gown. And then she was set. And she didn't have to worry about it. She didn't have to think about it. And it made me feel like we're becoming almost like something people can depend on. Right. It's not even like we'll go see. Maybe we'll find something. Like this woman was super confident. She's like, I know I'm going to find something. I'm going to walk out with something. And she did. And she was able to go to her wedding on Sunday.
I remember I got a text message, from a parent after open hours. And she said, you don't understand. Like, it's not about, thank God I saved the money, I'll donate it. It wasn't, about the money for her. But she said, my daughter, she's not in the religious schools in the community. She has other needs. And she goes, we've gone to so many places. We haven't been able to find anything. I'm not sure why I didn't come to the Gemach first. I should have come to the Gemach first. She's like, she sent me a picture that actually brings tears to my eyes, because it was like, she's like, look at her face. Like you took this girl who's like struggles so much in so many different areas, and she put on this gown. She's like, she feels like $1 million. Her whole self-esteem, her whole being, she left the Gemach feeling like on top of the world. She's like, I hope you realize what you're doing for everybody in the community. And it's really, it's such a little thing. But if you feel good in the way you look, then you feel good all over. And
Absolutely. I'm saying even for men, I'm saying the feeling, even men seem more boring with the suit, but I'm telling you that for a man, it's the same thing.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Another thing that actually is we feel very strongly about is that with all of our volunteers, the people who are like running the behind the scenes, we've always empowered them to feel out a situation, because there are a lot of people who come to the Gemach who are in need, and it's not always comfortable for them to say like, I can't afford this, or, sometimes, which is amazing, we'll get a heads up from a rabbi or an organization that someone is coming, and to just, not charge them, which of course we do happily. But what we feel really strongly about is actually, I was with someone once, and a comment that she made just made me feel like maybe this was just too much for her. And without even blinking an eye or thinking for a second, I just told her that's okay. There's no charge, and to be able to do that for the community and to just feel out, someone could just be having a hard month, it doesn't mean that they're going to need help forever, but to be able to do that. And that's like, we just feel so strongly that nobody needs permission. All of our volunteers know if someone makes a twinge in their face, or they just get a feeling, that's
right. And even more than that, because you have to take the gown to the dry cleaners, right? And you pay the dry cleaners, and sometimes it's, a $30 charge, and sometimes for a white wedding gown, it can be $300 to clean, And we say the same thing. If you have a feeling that somebody is in need, not only that, let them know that when they drop off the cleaners, we'll cover. I know we had a bride, who actually she was comfortable mentioning to me, like, this is difficult for me. Forget the borrowing the gown. She couldn't even afford the dry cleaning fee. And it was something we took care of as a Gemach, because we have people in the community who make donations. Even if they're not, necessarily taking a gown, they'll sometimes come and they'll see the Gemach and they'll be like, wow, can I make a donation? And we have a QR code. They scan, it's on the way out. Those things help us help other people. Obviously, we have, money that comes in, but it's not, a great amount. So having that availability of people making extra donations allows us to even go a step further and cover the cleaning fees for people.
Okay, well, that's great. So you have this beautiful new location, doing great stuff. Your goal is to get to a warehouse of Chesed. Okay, you're going to say.
I just wanted to say one note about the location. Also, is that we felt so strongly that when we knew we needed to move out of the homes that we had been in, we felt really, really strongly about finding a place that was bright and beautiful, and making people feel like when they come in that they're not like being stuck like into a basement and like, oh, like Nebuch, like you can't.
Right.
We wanted it to be this beautiful, wonderful experience, and the feedback has been so nice. Incredible. And we just are trying. That's something that we feel so strongly about. And even though, in theory, as a Gemach, it might make more sense to be in someone's basement, thank God we do have this backing that whatever we don't bring in, to cover the monthly expenses, Becky and Avi are willing to cover for us, which is incredible. And that really allows us to afford this amazing experience to the people who are coming. And that's also when we were figuring out our pricing structure, there are some Gemachs who charge based on the gown.
Right.
And we also talked about this, and we felt like if someone comes in and they can't afford a gown, why would we tell them, not only can you not afford a gown, but you can't afford the pretty gown. You have to take like the Nebuch gown. So our pricing is across the board. It's one price. There's one borrowing fee across the board for each category of gown.
I'm guessing most people, the vast majority, can pay and want to pay. Most people want to pay. Most people want to pay something.
Yeah.
Even if it's borrowed, they want to pay something. That's just in general. Like most people don't want to. Free is like hard. I think most people.
Yes. So, yeah. No, I mean that's something that we actually learned from the Adleah store in Israel. When I went there, Karen, I forgot her last name. Karen something, I don't know. She told us straight out that they make sure that everything has a price, because people don't feel great when they are getting handouts, and they want to be able to pay whatever it is they can. So for us, that's also an option. If someone says, I can't afford the 75, but I'd be happy to pay 30, great.
Mm-hmm. And we've had people say, well, 75, I'm going to write you a $200 check.
Right.
Makes sense. I'm not surprised. I'm actually happy to hear that people have said that. Okay. So, that's cool. Wow. Okay. I am really impressed. I mean, I knew what you guys are doing because we've written about it in the paper, in the Jewish Link, but it's nice to hear it firsthand. before we went on camera, you talked about like things you'd want some of the donors to do. I'm offering you the chance to restate what you would want from donations and donors.
So I think just one of the things is to just like use common sense when you're going to donate it. Is it something that you would want to wear now? Is it current? Is it something that you would feel good in? Is it something that might have been beautiful once upon a time, but is no longer? We try very hard to keep our inventory current, elegant, high end, and clean, not ripped, not, all of those general commonsensical things. And
we like when people donate the gowns clean, just because then they can go right out on the racks. Obviously, if it's something that people can't afford, but they still want to donate, let us know and we'll clean it before it goes out. But really clean is important to us. That it comes in after Simcha, you dance, you're tired, you're sweaty, maybe you drop some coffee on you at the end of the night, just to drop off gowns that are clean.
What's the percentage, by the way? Most people get stains on there. Most people stain the gowns. Like there's a cleanings are really needed usually, right?
So we do find that most of the gowns that we get are, if they're coming straight from the Simcha, they're cleaned, because most people are like, you don't feel good giving a gown that's just been all like sweaty and gross, but it's really more the gowns that come in years later or months later that may have just been sitting for a while, and there's, like a yellowing or a tear or a small thing that they didn't notice. So obviously if it's something like that, we take care of it. We do our best to fix it. But if it's something you notice, feel free to fix it before you drop it off.
Do you allow alterations, by the way, or no? Do people do? I should have asked. I don't know why.
We allow alterations that can be reversed.
Okay.
So, you can take a base stitch hem, which I'm not, if anyone's not familiar, they just sew it up and then you cut it out at the end of the night before it goes to the cleaners. We allow you to take in as long as it can be taken out. We don't let the gowns get cut. But if you're doing something to improve the gowns, like you're adding a sleeve, if it's sleeveless or you're filling in, if it's see-through, then we appreciate it. We leave it. But you are, to a certain extent, without ruining the gowns for the next person.
And most gowns really also, it goes kind of like on a case-by-case basis. There are some gowns that we know go out constantly, so we can't allow, major alterations to those. There are some gowns that go out less. So if it's really going to make this person Simcha to, take it in or let it out or add appliques or something, we always tell you, discuss it with the volunteer before you decide.
Now that you have 1,500 gowns, I don't know how you managed in a house. I'm like, you should have been out of a house a long time ago. 1,500 gowns.
Yeah, you could barely move a gown.
We did need to leave
1,500 gowns.
A lot
These
sooner
are not
than we
gowns.
did.
No.
These are.
But just to put it in perspective, every single rack that was in that house turned into at least a rack and a half, if not two.
I believe that. That's funny.
And I would give a shout out to Shulgasser Movers if they do listen. They were very nice to us. We've moved 3 times. And they've always been extremely nice to us, and they've, really only charged us what it cost them, and they helped us whatever timing we needed. They were amazing. But yeah, watching those gowns go out of the house, it was like a clown car. How did this ever fit in that house?
It would have been funny. It would have been fun. I don't know if you guys put it on video, or you guys recorded it all.
We should have. We were so busy focused on moving.
I don't know if you're on your social media game, but that would have been good. So.
We do have an Instagram account. Yeah. It's called @somethingborrowed_TGG. Teaneck Gown Gemach.
Got it. Okay. @somethingborrowed_TGG.
Yes. So Deborah Oken manages our Instagram. One thing people keep asking for is pictures of the gowns, and it's a dream of ours to one day have like a digital inventory, but it is at the moment not
almost impossible.
Not possible.
Why is it?
Because it's constant changeover, constantly things coming in, things going out, things we're taking out of inventory. What size is it? People custom make gowns,
it's hard
so we
to
don't
keep track
really.
Of it. But it's not hard to put. It wouldn't be that hard to enter a picture of every one. You're saying it's hard to keep track of it.
We would need
businesses do this, by the way.
Of course, businesses do that, but businesses with paid employees do that.
Exactly.
Not businesses who don't have.
I said it first. I think you're not far away.
I think that if we had a volunteer who wanted to exclusively volunteer just to photograph every single gown and upload it for us,
we'll take them.
We would
gladly take them.
But it is an issue because gowns are currently in and out, being removed from inventory because something happened to it, or
you go to the library. The library knows of the books in the system, not in the system. It's not that hard.
Maybe we have to get a professional. Yeah. Right now, we're working on a Google Docs.
That's by the way, Rivki. That's that you got to get off the Google Docs. You cannot run a real nonprofit or business
on a Google Doc
on Excel.
So maybe offline, Moshe's going to give us some tips on how to move from a Google Doc to a different system.
The dream was small. I mean, the dream was big, but we started small. As we grow, we got to keep up with the times.
Up our game. Yeah, I mean, listen, we had to switch from from accepting Zelle to accepting credit cards. And, it's been quite a journey in that regard.
So first, I'll keep upping your game. That's really what I'm going to leave you with. Okay, just keep it. It sounds like you're upping your game. Keep on upping. You have a lot more upping to continue to do. I'm sure that number 1,500 is going to be bigger when next time I see you.
Please God.
And just wish you guys continued success. I know you mentioned already the Instagram. Just put out your website and things where to find you guys.
So you can find us on Instagram, Something Borrowed TGG. You can also
text us.
201-923-7570. It will be me on the phone. You can call, text, or WhatsApp that number. We have calendars that we put out with our hours. Just quickly, I'll tell you right now, the hours that we are open are, and this is pretty standard. So it's always a good idea to text just to double check. But Sundays we're open for walk-ins 10 to 11 in the morning, 7:30 to 8:30 at night. Tuesdays we're open from 10:30 to 12 in the morning. Wednesdays, 8 to 9 p.m. And Thursdays we offer by appointment. So you need to call or text to schedule that.
So I'm guessing Sundays and weeknights are the busy times.
Yeah.
No?
We're pretty busy, thank God, all of the time. So, which is great. We're very happy to be busy. It just means that it's working. So
Yeah,
I was surprised that Tuesday day was busy during the day. But before we do sign off, I want to say two quick things. I wanted to give the names of the people that the Gown Gemach is in memory of. Becky and Avi Katz's grandparents, which is Shlomo Zev ben Shmuel Yehuda and Hensha Ruth bat Eliezer. My mother, Freda Dabra bat Yerachmiel, who really always told me, you when you pass away, you don't take anything with you, only what you've done in the world. So she's really was my inspiration. And then Basi and Adam Lewis, his grandmother, Rachel bat Aharon, as well. And then other dreams that we have, if anybody who's listening has a big empty space that they would like to donate, we would love to do other initiatives. We have lots of things. People ask me all the time, can you start a bike gemach? Can you start I know there's a clique gemach. We have the gemach listing in the Jewish link. You can look it up and see what there is. But what we really want to do one day is open a kind of a clothing exchange. So it's amazing that this community sends all the clothes to Israel through Yad Leah, and that's still needed. But Chesed begins at home. And anytime my daughter outgrows something and I post it, within 3 minutes, I have 7 people saying, "Oh, I'll pick it up." If I say I'm putting size 10 girls Shabbos stuff out, outside my door, and it can be anonymous, or it doesn't even have to be anonymous. It would be nice if somebody outgrew size 10, they brought all their child size 10, and then they took size 12. But that takes a lot of. Obviously, we need a lot more volunteers, but also a huge space. So if anybody has a big space that they want to donate to us, we would love to start something like that as well.
Okay. All right. That's good. So you heard it here. Looking for a big warehouse could be.
Could be a warehouse.
Warehouse.
It could even be a basement.
It could be an empty house.
A few thousand square feet.
An empty basement with its own entrance would be incredible.
Okay.
Any of those
That's great.
things.
Okay. That's we'll keep that in mind. And thank you. Thank you both.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Thanks for being with us on the Jewish Link Pitch Meeting podcast. If you would like to participate or be in touch with us in any way, please email us at editor@jewishlink.news and follow us and find our podcast wherever you find podcasts.